Hello and welcome to the History of LA Ska one-on-one sessions. I am Eric Kohler, producer of the series, and we are anxiously and eagerly awaiting on host Junor Francis, who will be joining us shortly. But do want to remind you all, let you know that this series celebrates the ska, rocksteady, and vintage reggae scene in Southern California and beyond through insightful conversations with the legends and modern-day talent, including those behind the scenes. And there's a lot of those behind the scenes. And whether you listen to us via podcast series or watch us on YouTube, we really thank you for your ongoing support. And we're excited about this one here. We have two special guests with us tonight. And on this episode, two integral members of the undeniably powerful all-women supergroup known as Girl Revue. Welcome Ginny Whiskey and Kristen Forbes, aka Lady Hatchet. Hello, ladies.
Hey.
Hello, welcome.
Thank you for having us here.
Yeah,
thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you for being with us. And again, we're gonna anticipate Junior's arrival at some point during this interview, but thank you for your patience as we had some technical difficulties earlier. But it's an absolute pleasure. And I want to thank Mark Wasserman. Oh, we're going to let in Junior here and see if this works. But definitely want to thank Mark Wasserman for helping connect the dots here. So thank you, Mark. And as we get Junior situated here, we're going to focus a lot of this interview on Girl Revue for various reasons. However, we do want to start by kind of getting a little bit of history of you individually, if that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Background. So let's start with Lady Hatchet, Kristen. So you're also singer, songwriter, and guitarist for the Scotch Bonnets. And you also are in the Players Band. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yes.
Can you talk about where you were born and raised?
I was born in North Kingstown, Rhode Island. Grew up there. Went to school in Boston, I guess, like senior year of high school, like freshman year of college was when I became aware of ska music. I kind of came to it via the rockabilly path, because in Providence, Rhode Island in the mid to late 90s, the big local band was the Amazing Royal Crowns.
Mm.
And they played with a lot of ska bands,
Yeah.
Skavoogie and Spring Heel Jack and the Allstonians and all the really good bands of the New England scene. And that's kind of how I got into playing. I got asked to play in my first ska band from some kids in my astronomy class at Boston University. Played in a band called Take 5 for about a year. Got kicked out of that band because I honestly, when I joined that band, didn't really understand ska music. Okay. I think as a lot of people my age, ska, the ska had broken onto mainstream radio with No Doubt and Real Big Fish, right. And you know, all those. Yes, all the Bosstones, all those bands. Sure. So at that point, my knowledge of ska was just what was on the radio. And they're like, no, there's this whole other side to it. And I'm like, okay, well, please someone shepherd me through to it, because I don't, and this is pre-internet. So it's not like you just Google like, 60s ska and a whole playlist comes up.
It took a lot more to do the research and find.
Oh yeah. So I didn't know a lot about it, but it was like right at the end, a really great DJ named Generoso Fierro, who still has a show called the Bovine Ska and Rocksteady, that he does via SoundCloud, but at the time he did it on MIT radio. Okay. And he was a friend of mine that I met through the Skavoogie guys, and so I was starting to understand it a lot more then. But at that point, I think a lot of women have this similar aspect to their story. It's like I was playing in a band for one reason or another. I got kicked out of that band. I wasn't good enough. I was in a relationship with someone and it went astray, but the dude didn't get to leave, but I had to leave. There's a lot of reasons. But then you're like, well, but I love playing music, and what do I do? Like, do I get to play in another band? Most people are not going to take a chance, but determined, precocious Kristen was like, I got to figure it out. I got to learn how to write songs. I got to learn how to book shows. I got to put a band together. I got to learn. And it took a while. And I kind of distanced myself from, I was like, ska music, you broke my heart.
Right.
So I was doing more like rock, pop. Yeah, for a while I was like,
You needed a
sorry.
break. You needed a break, right?
I was just like, like I remember we played a great show with the Austonians on a Friday and I got kicked out on a Sunday. And I was just like, what the hell? Like, I finally felt like I was getting somewhere. I finally felt like I understood this music, and then it was done. It was over.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't until years later, fast forward, I was doing like solo stuff to like, I was programming drum machines and playing, because that was also the time of like Lilith Fair. And I was like, I'm not another acoustic girl with a guitar. No, I play electric guitar. I'm a rock and roll girl, even though I'm by myself. And so I played a show in Baltimore, and my sound guy was my long-term keyboard player, Pablo Fiasco. And it took a very not very long to discover, oh wait, you play ska music? I play ska music. Oh, and he ended up like showing me around Baltimore that night, and I was like, I have this Heptones dub album. I bet she's like, I've heard everything by the Heptones. I'm like, you haven't heard this. And he hadn't. And I crashed at his house that night, and he stayed up all night listening to his album. And unbeknownst to me, but he told me years later, he's like, I made a vow to myself. I'm like, someday I'm gonna get that girl to play ska music again, and we're gonna be in a band together.
Oh,
He manifested that shit.
That's awesome.
And did he?
Well, yeah, I mean, I moved to DC to play with, do you remember there was a band called the Dismemberment Plan, and I played with their singer in his solo project for a little while. And then I got kicked out of that band because another familiar trope to the female musician story is I was upstaging everyone, aka I was the only woman in the band, and I was giving it my all, and I was just drawing attention because it's the theory of difference. If you're the only thing.
Good. You were, yeah.
Well, no, it's not. I mean, I'm good. I value my talent and my performance, but I wasn't so great. It was just I was the only woman, and like the theory of difference goes, if you're the only one of a thing, if you're the only woman, person of color, whatever, your eye that's where the eye goes, and but
maybe the insecurities of the other band members, right?
100%.
Yep. But I reconnected with Pablo. He was doing jams in DC. I started playing with him. I started writing songs. You know how it is sometimes you're in a relationship that goes south and you got to get out of town quickly. And so one day I was like living with this guy in DC, and it just wasn't going to work. So he's like, okay, how long? I'm like, how long until what? How until you get your shit out of my apartment? And so I'm like, Pablo, you live in a warehouse. Can I move myself, my cat, and my shit into your apartment tomorrow? He's like, come to Baltimore. And that's how I ended up in Baltimore. And it's really affordable here. And I think that's something, if you want to be a musician, you need affordable. I don't want to tell you what I pay for my mortgage because you'll cry because you live in LA. I'm sorry.
No, please.
I'm conveniently located between New York and DC, and there's a great ska scene in DC, and there's a really good reggae scene here in Baltimore. So there's all the things you kind of need. And Pablo, the way I got into the Players band was when I moved to Baltimore, I just went to a Players gig with Pablo, who already played in the band, and he was like, she's in the band now. And a lot of guys were like, I'm not splitting money with another person. But the drummer, the two people in the band, Mark Leary, who went on to be the first drummer of the Bonnets, was like, oh, she's good. And the drummer was like, yeah, she's real solid. We got to keep her. So I didn't get paid for the first 3 years. I wasn't on the email list at first, but I had to drink a little haterade, but like eventually.
So what year did you join Players Band?
2008.
Okay. Right.
And the Bonnets were kind of fomenting at these jams we were doing in DC. And then we got started in the fall of 2000. We had played our first show. We played our first show in the December of 2009.
Oh, so just after.
Yeah, like a year. It took about a year of kind of, like I said, jamming, playing with the Players, living with Pablo and working out some stuff then,
Right. Yeah. And then now, but is the Players band still active?
Oh, yeah. The Players band is more of a regional thing. Guys have families and kids and jobs, so there's not a lot of touring. But the Players band is a really amazing quality band. I mean, they've been a band for almost 30 years. Their horn section, I would say, is probably the best in the area, in the what we call the DMV, the District of Columbia, Southern Maryland, Northern Virginia. Right. Like their horn section is unrivaled around here, and it's also like the most hesitate to say pro, but it's like we play a lot of restaurant gigs with 3 sets, or we'll play like 2 sets at a summer concert series festival. And that's when you really get to flex as a musician. You get to take long solos. You get to, oh, well, so-and-so's not here today and so-and-so's not here today. And we have this guy who's covering and he knows these songs, but not these songs.
Yeah,
and
right.
what can we do? Oh, I can sing this song. Okay, let's do that. Or, all right, we got to make this a 15-minute version of 5446. So Kristen, you got a version Feel Like Jumpin', and everybody's going to solo. And, we got to like really, and that's, it works your chops, and
Sure.
I
But
really
it
value.
can't really just be thrown together though, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in the players, I've had to play bass, I've had to play keys, like I've sang, I've gotten to some days when there aren't enough singers, I sing a lot of backing vocals. Sometimes, I'm playing second guitar, like, I'm the utility infielder.
That's perfect. And on that note, Ginny, let's move over to you. So you are also vocalist, saxophonist for Hub City Stompers, as well
Mhm.
as another fascinating review of sorts in Rude Boy George, right?
Yes. Yes.
Which reimagines 80s new wave classics in kind of a ska, rocksteady, and reggae fashion. But let's talk about your upbringing and how you entered the scene, so to speak.
I was born in New Brunswick, New Jersey, and I've lived near the Brunswicks pretty much most of my like childhood life and some of my adult life. And I got into ska when like pop punk was kind of booming, like Green Day and Offspring and all of that stuff was on the radio. And then obviously like all the bands Kristen mentioned, which was like Real Big Fish and Boss Tones and all that stuff. And I was pretty young when I started listening to ska. I think I was like 13 or 14. And I was in high school with a guy whose name is Kevin, who ended up being the trumpet player for Catch 22 and Streetlight Manifesto.
Okay.
And he worked at a record store in the mall. And I would go there and visit him, and he'd be like, "Oh, you want to buy this? You want to buy this?" And he would kind of tell me what I should get, and like introduce me to all different kinds of bands. Because I had an older brother and sister, but they were like metalheads. So we didn't really share a whole lot of the same tastes. But when I would just look at the liner notes, because sometimes bands used to thank their influences in the liner notes, and that's what I'd be like, "Oh, I got to look them up." And I would buy it just because, like, oh, Stiff Little Fingers like thanked this band. So that's just how I got into ska, I guess, through that. And I ended up going to see, when Catch 22 was still called GIMP, before they changed their name, they played like a small, like a matinee show somewhere near me. And my friend Kevin's parents took me so I could see them. And I was like, oh, like I'm a saxophone player. I've been playing since I was 9. I've always wanted to play something cool. Like now I can play something cool. Like I don't have to just play jazz. Cause like, jazz is fun, but like, it just wasn't my passion, what I listened to in my free time. And I've told this story before, I'm sure. Fun fact, because I was really good friends with Kevin in high school, they needed a sax player in Catch 22, and they asked me to play, but my mom wouldn't let me because I was like 13 or 14 and I was the only girl. It's whatever. My ska trajectory went a very, no. It went its own way. It went the way it needed to go. So I'm not at no hard feelings, obviously. Like they're a great band and they've done amazing things, but just wasn't meant to be. So, but I just kept going to shows, and I think my first band found me by searching ska sax in my town in an AOL profile, and that's how they found me. AOL profile, no picture, like. And it was a bunch of high school kids who were in the next town over that wanted to play ska. And I think I wasn't the only girl in that band. So my mom let me join that band.
And
it was a girl kid. It was called Professor Plum, like from Clue.
Yep.
And we played like kind of two-tone style ska, I guess. And I played sax with them for 9 years, which is a long time for joining a band when you're like 14 years old. But we played up until like right around 9/11 happened. And we had a lot of member changes throughout the years. But I still talk to some of those people, like still to this day.
But do they still exist as a band?
Yeah, no. That band disintegrated right around that time. The bass player books all kinds of shows still. He booked that Atlantic City festival that we were just at. My bass player from that band. Yeah, but I don't think any of them really still play ska music, but they're still around. Like as, people. What else? Right. I kept joining bands here and there throughout, like from when I was age like 20 to 22, I was in no bands, and I was kind of looking to keep playing, but I didn't know if I wanted to do ska anymore, because ska at that point, like there weren't that many shows. It was like the early 2000s, like everything kind of took a dip. There wasn't a lot going on.
Right.
And I had kind of tried my hand at like guitar and singing, and I tried to join a couple of girl bands, but they all wanted me to play the same like whole cover, and it wasn't for me. And then I found out that there was a show at Rutgers University, and I was living in New Brunswick at the time, and it was a band that said it was made up of members of Inspector 7, and I was like, I remember those guys.
Yeah,
I know those guys. We played with them a dozen times in my old band. So I was like, okay, I'm going to go to the show. And Streetlight Manifesto was headlining. Mm-hmm. And I had that's where I ran into Travis in Hub City, having not seen him for a couple of years. And he was like, oh, we could use a sax player. And initially I said no, because they had a full horn section, and another band that night asked me to play with them, and they had no horns. And I was like, well, I want creative freedom. So I chose to join the other band, and they were called Bombtown.
Okay.
And they did kind of like dance hall. It's really hard to explain. Dance hall, there's like a little bit of hardcore mixed in. Huh. It was an experience. You can look it up if you'd like. My singer used to spit Everclear over a flame at people and like set people on fire. Anyway, yeah, it was nuts. Yeah. So I did that for a while, and then my singer in Bombtown he was a Marine, and he had to go to Iraq. So we kind of took a hiatus for a while, just we're writing and wrote songs while he was gone. And then Travis from HCS was like, my whole horn section left, because they had like a come to Jesus moment where they were like, look, the band wants to tour. If you're not into this, like you have to go or whatever. So all of the horn players left. And that is when I joined HCS, which was 2002.
And how long had they been around before you joined?
Wait a second. No, it was 2004. They were around for 2 years before I joined the band.
Fairly new.
So yeah, they weren't around all that long. And then that's when the current bass player, Bob, Reggae Bob, joined, and a couple other folks.
Yes.
And I've just been playing with them ever since. It was supposed to be temporary because my singer in my other band was on leave in Iraq. And, when he came back, I was supposed to stop playing with HCS, but it was too much fun. So, and then eventually I ended up leaving Bombtown to be with HCS full time.
Right. Ginny, hold that thought real quick. Sorry. Junior, we can hear you. I think we almost have connection to Junor Francis.
Junior is with us.
We can hear you. We can see your name on the screen, but we cannot see you.
I'm trying to conjure my incense stick.
There we go. Yeah. Kristen,
AKA ward away the gnats.
I've seen the fly come across the screen.
My roster friend Ross Rick told me like, oh, if you burn incense, you'll keep the flies away. And I was like, maybe that will work, because if not, I'm going to lose my mind during this interview. They're like everywhere.
I'm going to save the very last question for the fly. So
murder.
As Junior still tries to get his camera going. So Ginny, we can hear you, Junior. So Ginny, yes, we can hear you. Can you hear us?
I'm not sure why I can't hear.
All right, he'll get it going. Ginny, talk about Rude Boy George, if you would.
So I've known Mark and Roger a really long time, because go back to like my first show with my first band, Professor Plum, in like, I don't know, 1996 or something,
So,
or 7.
and sorry, Ginny, real quick. Junior, we can see you now. Can you hear us?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Woo!
Something is wrong. I think my phone has seen its better days.
All right, but Junior, we have you. That's all that matters. Junior, please meet two wonderful human beings. We have Kristen, aka Lady Hatchet, and we have Ginny Whiskey. Junior, hello there.
Yes.
I'm trying to make you
Hello,
proud.
ladies.
Hello.
Hello.
We got some great
Oh there. I didn't jump ship. Something is wrong and I can't figure it out. I think my phone is in a hotspot. I don't know. I switched to Wi-Fi. Yeah. Anyhow.
Your perseverance
How you all doing?
has gotten you through. Perfect.
Everything is cooking curry.
That's right. We got some great
Nice.
background on Lady Hatchet's career. We are talking to Ginny Whiskey now. She was starting to talk about Rude Boy George. And so with that, please carry on.
I've known Mark and Roger a long time, and because of Bigger Thomas, and my first show ever in my first band ever in like 1997, we opened for Bigger Thomas on Halloween at the Stone Pony in Asbury Park. And that was the first show I ever played on stage, and it was with Bigger Thomas. So I've known them a long time. And also my husband, Rob, who's also the guitar player in Hub City Stompers, he played in Bigger Thomas for years and years. So we know those guys. And then they had their singer had moved down to South Carolina, and they needed a singer and they needed a guitar player, and half the band quit. So they called us because we were like a package deal. And we just started playing with them, and it kind of just felt, it kind of just came together real quick because we all knew each other, and like Rob's I played with Bigger Thomas a bunch. So it kind of just gelled real nice, real fast.
So Rude Boy George had started prior to you three joined.
Yeah, they had a whole other singer. If you look at all their old music videos, they have a whole different singer. Her name is Meg. She's fantastic, and and she will be sitting in for me as well for another show coming up, because Rob and I are going to be in New Orleans. But yeah, she's back in New York now and does sit in with the band when I can't make it. She sat in with them when I was in Colorado with Girl Revue.
Right. And one more question for each of you before we go into Girl Revue, and I'll let Junior ask that first question. But Lady Hatchet, when the first, or maybe not even the first, but what is your most memorable, and it could be on the good side or negative side of touring and playing with Scotch Bonnets? Any crazy story, any wonderful story or anything?
Okay, I'll give you one of the band's big highlights that also has like a ridiculous, fantastic story attached to it. And I'll keep it kind of brief.
Excellent.
So one of the biggest things I guess we've done as a band is we played at the Victoria Ska Festival in Victoria, British Columbia.
Yes.
I was elated. I'd been there. I played there with Angela Moore, so I knew Dane, the promoter. I knew the island. I knew it was like a big deal in the community. So I was really excited for it. And big props to Dave Hilliard at the Slackers who helped to hook that up. But ever since as soon as we confirmed the gig, I had this underlying anxiety of you have to take a boat to get to Victoria. It's an island. You have to take a boat. And knowing how irresponsible my crew can be, I was like, we're going to miss the boat. Like, my big fear was we were going to miss the boat. So the night before, we played in Seattle, and we managed to get on a bill with the Pie Tasters, who were they played in Victoria on Friday, and then they came to Seattle on the Saturday. We played Seattle on the Saturday and went to Victoria to close out the festival on the Sunday. And I was even more scared because I was like, we have to get on a boat at like like 7 in the morning, or I think it was like 7:30. It was early. It was very early, especially if you're playing in Seattle the night before and especially we're playing with the Pie Tasters, who are our friends, who are like legendary drunks.
Yes.
And so that night our then bass player was this guy named Dan, and Dan had a tendency to get kind of nuts. But he was like, no. He knew how nervous I was about this. He's like, I am going to stay sober that night and I will drive. I'll make sure that we get there. And I'm like, deep down, I don't trust you, Dan, but I'm not going to say that to you. I'm just going to say, okay, we're going to do it. So we left, we played the show. It was great. We had a great set, had a lot of fun with the Pie Tasters. We left Seattle at 2 a.m. You had to drive down this one highway until you got to Olympia. And I only knew that because of Hole. When I went to school in Olympia, I was like, go to Olympia and then turn north on 1, and then you just follow it around and you get to the boat place. Okay. But it's also, 1 is also kind of like a square, and it goes out. If you keep going, you get to this peninsula where there's literally a rainforest. And I know this because I fell asleep for a half an hour coming out of Seattle, and I knew I shouldn't. And GPS was a little like, the reception was spotty. And I was like, just take 1 north, 2 towards the boat. And I fell asleep, and I woke up about half an hour later, and I'm like, where are we? Are we at the boat yet? And I see we're in Aberdeen. Oh, no. Another reason I know that one, because that's where Kurt Cobain is from. And I knew from a map, I'm like, wait, that's not where we need to be. We're too far west. And sure enough, like, if this is where the boat launches, this is where we are. And I get on GPS, finally, I get a signal, and it's like going to take an hour and a half to get to the boat. And we have like half an hour or something. And I'm like, or no, it's going to take 2 hours to get to the boat, and we have an hour. And I'm like, I start to have a panic attack, but then I'm like, Dan, you need to stop the car and get out. Pablo, who is our resident speed racer, and normally is like a slightly terrifying driver, I'm like, Pablo, do what you must to get us to the boat. And he just starts driving as fast as he can. And at one point he had to slam on the brakes because a fucking elk crossed the road in front of us like a dinosaur from a prehistoric time. And I'm just like, we're all, and we're like, okay, that's why you're not supposed to drive this fast. I was like, Pablo, just be careful and just be careful. And we're driving around the coast, and the sun is coming up. I felt like we were in Lord of the Rings, like running over the Rohirrim. Like there was just, the sun is coming up, and it's epic rainforest. There's rocks coming out of the ocean and mountains and mist, and we're going as fast. I'm like, man, I hope I can come back here at some point in time, because this is like this is like a sci-fi fantasy nerd dream come true. And we're going 60, and we're going on hairpin turns, and God bless that maniac, we made it to the boat. Oh my gosh. In time to get in the queue, an hour, like maybe 45 minutes in advance. And yeah, and we got on, and we were meeting a substitute drummer, because our drummer unfortunately has some issues why he can't get his passport. Okay. So we had to get a sub drummer who's waiting in the parking lot, like sleeping in his car. He's like, oh, I wasn't sure if you're gonna make it. I was like, we weren't either, but here we are. And you made it, and it was an incredible set. Everything went well. We had a great set. We had a great time. What a story. They brought us weed like after our set. I was like, oh, Canada. Aww. I love you. Like, I love Canada. Wow. So it was a really good time. Great story. I'm glad it all worked out. I'm sure Dana is as well. So yeah, shout out to Dane. He's a wonderful human. Yes, I've not met him, but I heard nothing but amazing things about him and this festival. So, Ginny, what about you? A wonderful, positive, or a horror story?
That was a great story. I don't have anything that really compares. One of my favorite gigs I think we ever played was the first time HCS went to Mexico. We really weren't sure what to expect, and we hadn't slept at all the night before. Our flight kept getting changed, and when we showed up at customs and told them that we were there to play the festival, the guy didn't speak a lot of English, and he went, ska, me. And we were like, yeah. And it was crazy, because it was in like the town square, like the city square in Monterey on the steps of the Mexican Museum.
Wow.
And there was like thousands and thousands of people there, like excited for ska. And I'm like, wow, that doesn't happen here as much as it should. But there,
Yeah.
like, people were going crazy, and
Yeah,
the crowd was
what year-
amazing.
What year do you think that was?
Oh, that was like 10 years ago
Okay.
now. So 10 or 11 years ago. But yeah, no, 10 years ago. And people had made their own merch. Like, they
Wow.
had NJ Meet Monterey. Like, they made their own t-shirts. My husband has one, which is really cool. And like, the fans are amazing in Mexico. Every time you go to the bathroom, you feel like you're a Beatle, because people are coming up to you like, because nobody speaks English, so they want to take your picture, and you're like,
Wow.
really? What? Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
It's amazing.
I've heard
and then
nothing
I
but
have
amazing. Yeah.
and I have a gross barf story. When we were driving back from playing Des Moines, actually with the Agrolites, we played
Yeah.
a festival that was in Des Moines, and we had to drive through Nebraska, which is a whole lot of nothing. We had to drive like several hours at night. And one of our drummer at the time, he's sitting all the way in the back seat, and we had packed the van in such a way he had to like climb over us to get out. And all of a sudden I turn around and I see him like with his cheeks
Oh,
puffed
no.
up, and he's putting his fingers over his mouth. And we stopped the car, and Rob just like launched him out of the car, like by his feet. And he was barfing on the side of the road. And then my other guitar player got up and was like, I'm gonna barf too. And they were both barfing. And then the merch girl had to sympathy barf because she can't smell or hear barf. And then she had to barf because they were barfing. It was like Stand By Me.
Was it?
It was like,
So
yeah.
it might be TMI, but was the bar from motion sickness, too much drinking, or stomach bug?
It was definitely from too much drinking.
Okay.
Definitely. And definitely from like mixing too much weed and alcohol. That's
Okay.
definitely what that was.
Wow.
But yeah. And then at that point, everybody was outside puking. So I decided it was probably a good time to pee. So I popped a squat. But like, that was like the Hub City Barfarama in the middle of nowhere, Nebraska. And it was pitch black in the middle of the field.
Wow. That's incredible. Yeah, what a story. Well, when Junior comes back on, he can definitely talk about Mexico and how amazing ska fans are down there, because he's had the pleasure of going there a few different times. So, but we'll await Junior's return again. Let's turn our attention to Rude Girl Revue.
Hey.
Yes. So, talk about how the idea was born and how it initially came together. And this, I'll let you two take turns or fight or however you want to do it.
I don't know. We can't figure out who thought of it first, but it was between the two of us.
Okay.
It was somebody at Supernova. It was either you or me, or it might have been Travis. Like somebody at Supernova 2018
Okay.
was like, Jenny Whiskey and Lady Hatchet should pull together an all-girl, all-star band, and it would be amazing.
And were you both playing there with your respective bands?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And we definitely knew each other at the time. We definitely, I think, had like mutual admiration society going on. And personally, I was just like, yes, I want to work with Jenny Whiskey. So whatever. Let's do it. Like, I don't care what the context is. Let's just do it.
Yes.
And we started talking. We got about as far as, well, this lady could play this part. This lady could do this could do that. Who's going to be the drummer? That was like where we kind of got stumped. And then we found out about Catherine.
Stock.
Thank you. It's late for me. We found out about Catherine Stock in playing in the Pandemics, and I was like, Jenny, do you know this girl? I know you know the Pandemics. Do you know this girl? She's like, no, but I'll check her out. And that's about where things stopped, because we are both very busy people.
Yeah.
And it really took. Take it.
Oh no, I was just gonna say that was 2018 was also the year that I was getting married. So like that was even more
happening, right?
Yeah, that was even more insanity. But yeah, no, you can continue.
Okay. But then it really took the pandemic. It really took everything coming to a grinding halt and people having time to pursue some other things. And one of the ladies in our crew our girl Tara, she was doing a podcast at the time called Checkered Cast.
Right.
And she interviewed me, she interviewed Jenny, and one of her stock questions at the end was, if you could play music with anyone, who would you want to play with? And Jenny was like, well, I'd like to play with Lady Hatchet. Like, we talked about doing this all-girl band, and it, I would still like to do that. And I remember hearing that and being like, yeah, we got to do that. Yeah. And Tara is very tenacious, and she was like, that needs to happen. And if I have to manifest that myself, I will. So the first thing she did was she brought Tim Receiver, the main organizer of the Supernova Ska Festival, onto the podcast. And she had a whole plug, a whole pitch, like, okay, I think they should do this, and here's why. She didn't even have to give it, because Tim, of his own volition, was like, oh, and if Jenny and Kristen were to put together an all-girl band, I would make space for it at the festival.
Yes.
So then you fast forward to, it was sometime in January of 2021. A mutual friend in the scene, the lovely Annie Clemens, she's a master dessert maker,
pastry chef.
Okay. Wow.
Thank you. And she was hosting like a Zoom bake night, and myself and Tara and Lindsay, our fourth of our like kind of managing crew, was on it. I think there were some other people. And we made lemon squares, and I got really drunk. I drank like the end of the wine that night. I was like, because I was alone during the pandemic, so any chance to be with people, even on the computer, was like really a gift, and also incredibly awkward for me, because I was like, people. I got really drunk, and Tara then pitched to me like, listen, like, I have Tim on recording saying that he would do this, and would you do that? And like I said, I wasn't expecting to talk shop, and I'm drunk, and I'm like, well, we'd have to get a drummer. And we need a little money, for rehearsal space, and we'd have to have a Dropbox, and we'd have to do chart, because there's no way we could practice enough, blah, 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 blah. I'm just running at the yap.
Right, sure.
And she is taking notes the whole time. She's like, yep. Okay. I think I know how to get the money. Okay. We can do that. I can do that. And I was very like impressed that she was so
sure,
like prepared, and for like not delusions of grandeur. She was just like, okay. And she could take me kind of foaming at the mouth. So I was like, okay. And then also Lindsay was on that call, who said, Kristen, I have choir experience, so I could, I would love to be a part of this and work with singers. And I thought, we would need that. Like, we would definitely, one thing I definitely said on the call was, I can't do this by myself. I can't take on another project and do everything. And I was like, in my mind, the delegation of tasks, like, okay, Lindsay, you take the singers, Jenny, you take the horns, I'll take the rhythm section, and Tara, you can do some of the like management tasks, and then we can kind of get this off the ground. And
is Lindsay, who you mentioned, does she play in other groups?
Yeah, she plays in the Scotch and 13 Towers.
Oh, okay. Yep. Excellent. Sorry. Carry on.
Yep. No worries.
And so I hit up Jenny. I was like, you want to do this? And she's like, hells yeah. And the beauty of Supernova is that just about everybody was there. You know, like all the we brought in 3 people. I think we did have to get Catherine to go, but it didn't take a whole lot she was in pretty much from the first communication. She's like, yeah, sign me up. And we brought in Dania Best from Agent 99 and Dubastry, because she's in the DC area, and we knew we wanted like to reach out to some people, not just like, we were like, if we're going to reach out to someone, we want like some heavy hitters, some people who are going to give this some weight of history, and also just bring their bad selves to the stage. And she definitely brings it. And also, like, we'll get into this more, I'm sure, but one of the things about this project is we really want to give that platform to the voices that have been somewhat overlooked by the scene historically. And I feel like Dania is probably the number one person who has been over. I mean, she's been around since
Yeah.
the 90s in New York. And
Right.
Original slackers.
yup.
Right.
Mhm.
You're right.
So, you know, we reached out to her. We also knew, okay, we're gonna have to trust everyone, put everything in a Dropbox, put demos in a Dropbox, put charts in a Dropbox, put lyrics in a Dropbox, and trust everyone to be able to work on those things. I mean, we have people in 6 different states.
It
We
was
really-
more. It was more for this first
At
time.
that time, yes, that's real.
Because we had someone from California, we had 2 people from Arizona.
Tara from out here.
Yes.
Yeah.
We had Tara, we had the 2 gals from Bocat. We had Danny Raddick too, because we knew she was attending the festival. So we were like, oh, hey, you want to jump on stage with us? And like, she was all about it. But yeah, we had, I don't even know how many states, probably like 9 or 10 states.
Represented. And basically you had from January, February, right, of that year until
Well,
September.
yeah, until September. It was even a little bit of less time because like the 4 of us were scheming and plotting, but I don't think we fully recruited everybody until April.
Oh,
I think April was when we fully recruited everybody.
We reached out to everyone in like January, February, and we're like, hey, would you be down? And everybody got back and was like, yes. But it took
it took a couple months. Yeah.
For us to
something that massive,
like
big undertaking.
To demo everything.
Exactly. I mean, some songs that we did, like You Can Get It If You Really Want. Very true to the popular arrangement. But then a lot of the versions that we do, Never Gonna Get It, Respect, you know, those types of tunes, like Jenny and I had to take the song on, make it ska, do the recording, put it in the drive, get people to learn the parts, you know, get Lindsay to add some of the vocal parts. You know, there was a lot of like nuts and bolts stuff that had to have a, you know, type up lyric sheets, make them into a PDF, you know, just kind of secretarial type stuff. And that can be hard when you have a lot going on. I've run a Dropbox before for bands, so I also know that like you have to do this stuff early, especially because I knew we were going to have to rehearse this a little bit, and that was probably going to have to happen in like, you know, leading up to July, August, leading up to the festival. And I know for myself, I get really busy in the summer gigging. And I knew that some of the people we were asking to do this, like Allie from Stop the Presses, she's a pro, like she gets busy. I knew that it was like at some point, like end of February, beginning of March, I was like, yo, we got to get this done by the end of the month. We have to send this off to everybody so that like, look, we're serious. This isn't just, we asked and then, we forgot and dropped it. No, we're going to do this. We got to get this to people early, because then, you know, even at that time, just the 4 of us, there were only 2 days that all 4 of us were available to rehearse. Yeah. So I knew, I was like, if this is how hard it's going to be with just the 4 of us, we're not going to get everybody that we need. So we got to, by beginning of April, we got it out. Luckily, we managed, the July date did not work for enough people, but we had an August date that we still were able to get enough people, all the rhythm section and all the horns. And then we got as many singers as were convenient and available. And then we had one more rehearsal the day before we played in Virginia Beach. And that was with everyone. Oh no, we did a horn sectional in Baltimore.
We did a horn sectional at your house.
Yes.
And Ginny, did your experience in Rude Boy George and you know, rearranging and covering songs help?
That's like my favorite activity, truth be told. I have an album on my phone of just me taking pictures or screenshots of songs if I hear in the car, like, and I'll be like, we gotta cover this. I have a whole album of like photos of like song ideas. That's one of my favorite things to do. I love doing that. So it was super fun for me. What was not fun for me was doing horn charts, which I still have to do. But you know what? I've gotten the hang of it now, and it's not so bad anymore. But I was always too punk for charts. I've never been into it. When people would try to join Hub City Stompers, because it was just me for a long time. When other horns would join, they'd go, "You got charts?" And I'd go, "Get the fuck out of it. I don't got no charts. I learned those songs by listening to the record. I didn't even have the first record when I learned those songs." I don't know. I get real crotchety about it. I don't like it, but like I do it and it works out great though, because we can't always be together, and it's great for guests. Cause now in the format we have, I'm probably jumping ahead now a little bit,
No, please.
but so since the 16-person Supernova extravaganza,
Yes.
we have narrowed it down to 11 people who are in the group, and then
11 core members.
11 core members. And then wherever we go, if we know that there's horn players there, we give them a couple of songs. If we have singers, we give them a song. And like, that's just the kind of format we've been taking on
Right, so
recently.
those two positions, if you will, horns and singers, are the easiest to supplement, clearly, right?
Absolutely, yes.
Or the least difficult, I should say. Not easy, but least difficult.
Yeah, absolutely. Because the horns we just played with in Colorado, one of them didn't even get to practice with us, and she showed up and just slayed it. She was totally prepared.
Yeah.
Mackenzie from the Swashbuckling Doctors, check them out.
Nice.
She's amazing.
Going back to Supernova, I mean, the buzz just on social media alone, right? Of that performance, photos, videos, just this chatter was incredible. I had major FOMO. But talk about, did it exceed your expectations as far as both how it's looked and sounded on stage and just the aftermath, if you will?
Yeah. I mean, when we were putting this together, I don't know where I can't remember where our heads were at before we actually played, but I'm not sure if we were like considering carrying this on or maybe just doing it like for Supernovas or whatever. But I know that after the set happened, we were like, oh, we need to do this again, like a bunch. And
I think like, I know going into Supernova, Joni and I were very like adamant, like, sorry, the popo is flying over my house.
that's what that is.
No worries.
I live in the hood. I'm sorry.
Aliens?
Sorry. I'm a musician. It's got to be cheap. Sorry. Anyways, I know Jenny and I, like, before the festival, were adamant, like, this is going to be good. This is not going to be a novelty. This is going to be like a good band. And we were like hell bent on being like, y'all better practice. Like, I mean, we weren't yelling at people, but we were like, they better practice. This has got to be good. But I think everybody got it. Everybody was
Everyone
like,
took it serious.
Yes.
like, this is going to be, it's going to be fun, but this is going to be like a serious thing. Like, if we do this, it's got to be good, especially because they made us direct support for the Pilfers. Like,
Right.
we were the second to first show,
Great slot.
second to last main stage.
Yeah.
And I was like, we gotta crush. We have to. And I think musically, we were pretty happy with the way it came out. It was a first show. You have to be, you have to give yourself a little leeway. Things are not going to be the best that they'll ever be. But I think for a first show, like, it was really good. And the feedback we got from like, people that I respect were like, you guys were tight. I just want to interject that, like, one of the best things about Girl Revue for me is that Ginny Whiskey does all the horn arrangements. And I think up till now, people have not given her her due at what an amazing arranger she is. Like,
Thank you.
Amazing.
Django has said it.
That's great.
Guys in Mephistopheles have said it. Like, people are just like, wow, who does your horn arrangements? I'm like, Ginny Whiskey. And they're like, really? I was like, yeah, really. Wow. I was like, yes. Bow down at her feet. She's amazing, man.
I'll take it.
Take it.
So yeah, the music part, I think we had, high expectations and they were mostly met. The part that still trips me out is how so many guys were like, I was crying during your set. I was just crying. And I'm like, I can't comprehend that. Like, I get it that women are going to be moved emotionally because it's a really amazing, you don't get to see this many women performing together and like just crushing the game.
Yeah,
like, it's so empowering. It just is like, I can do this. I can do anything. And I get that from a female perspective, and from a male's perspective, I don't understand. I still am like, it's wonderful that you feel like this is a space in which you can become overwhelmed with emotion. Like, I know a lot of y'all dudes, like, society is like, no, you can't cry. Like, there's no crying for guys, like, man up, you know?
Yeah.
And so that's awesome that you guys feel like this is a space where you feel like you can express, you can become overwhelmed with emotion and go there. And that's great. I don't understand why it's happening. I still am just like, what? You know,
even,
like
now,
girls
even,
playing music
after
before.
even after the 3, what you've done 3 or 4 so far. Colorado recently, then you did.
I guess 4 technically.
In New York.
2 in Colorado.
There we go. That's right. Yeah. So you still don't. It still boggles your mind.
I mean, I guess I get it, but I'm also still like we had a similar reaction from fans in Colorado, and they were just like, I was just so I was so moved. I was a cry, and I'm like,
Well,
great.
It's
Great.
You all are making magic.
Great. I'm happy for you, but I don't understand.
Huge. It's a compliment of compliments, right?
Yes, I am great. I'm grateful that people feel something, because that's, as a musician, that's what you want. You want your music to get people to feel something.
Yes, to move everyone. You also all do a wonderful job on social media and different posts, and I love the little
All
video.
her, it's all Jenny with you.
Love the video of Greg Lee watching Duran
Duran.
That was great.
Oh my God, is there a video of that?
Yes. Kat took it. Kat, from the pandemics, we were in their room. We had a pizza party with, well, it was just Greg Lee in our room. It was a bunch of us girls eating Dominoes and probably enjoying some of the plant products of Colorado.
Sure.
And we were hanging out in the room, and Greg Lee came in to eat pizza with us. And we were watching Duran Duran for some reason. They were doing a live performance.
So,
and
can I interject? He was just like, oh, you guys, like, because we were all gonna hang out we were hanging out outside enjoying Leaf product. Greg Lee found his way outside. Then the rest of Hepcat found their way outside, but we'd ordered these pizzas. So we're like, all right, we'll see y'all later. We're going to go eat pizza. And we go sit in the room. We're watching like the end of the new Elvis movie. And then Greg Lee like sheepishly knocks on the door like, do you think I could get some pizza? And Lindsay was like, I'm going to give Greg Lee some pizza. Is that okay? And then I think it was Catherine who was like, he can come in. He can come into our room. I don't really care. And like, you have to picture, it's like a freaking slumber party. There's girls in the back of the bed, on the front of the bed, in the chair.
You can buy this photo. It was great. I love it.
But he when the Elvis movie was over, we were flipping channels and we found like a PBS, like Duran Duran, not 80s Duran Duran, modern Duran Duran. Like they're on tour currently. Or they were at the time, and they were playing somewhere. And I really was like, I wanted to see Duran Duran when they played in my area, but I was on tour, and because they're freaking great. Their bass parts are so good, and Simon Le Bon can still sing. So I was like, dude, can we watch this? And everybody was like, okay. And we're just like having a girl pizza party, and Greg Lee walks in like, y'all watching Duran Duran? We're like, yes. What's your problem? Denise's like, dude, I want them to play Planet Earth, and they did, and we're like, and then they played Ordinary World, their like power ballad from the 90s. Sure. And they go into this, I will never forget this moment. They go into the chorus, and I won't cry for yesterday. And Greg and Jenny simultaneously are like, and I never forget this moment as long as I live, because this is my this is why I'm a musician, for moments like this.
What an experience, yeah.
Well, Kat
she got
a video of it. She got a video of it just to send to her bandmates in the pandemic, so they could be jealous that Greg Lee was eating pizza and watching Duran Duran with us.
It's those moments backstage, right? Those backstage moments that are amazing. Yeah.
Yes.
So delicious. Oh, I love
there was another really great moment after that show too. And there's I haven't ever posted that drawing that he drew of you.
That's the other Greg. Okay.
Oh, Greg, not.
To be fair, I'm not like the drunk that I'm portraying myself to be in this moment, but we played at Ska Brewing, and we do not get Ska Brewing beer on the East Coast. It just does not make it out there. And I've heard a lot of things, and they gave us a lot of free beers, and I was like, I want to try all the free beers while I'm here. So I was like trying but I'm vegetarian. They didn't really have vegetarian food. They had some snackies, but nothing substantial. So, you know, I drank 4 beer. Oh gosh, Kristen really tied one on. I drank 4 beers, but I didn't eat anything. So I got a little drunk. Yeah, we got pizza back at the hotel. I was still kind of like, you know, I was still just feeling good. Like we crushed the set. We're hanging out. This is great. This bride and this groom at the last, like we went outside for our last smoke, and this bride and this groom come in, and everyone's like, "Oh, hey!" And we're clapping, "Hey, congratulations!" And I'm get a little bawdy and lippy when I'm drunk, and I was just like, "Hey, lay that pipe, lay that pipe, lay that pipe, lay that pipe," and I don't know. I guess LA guys never heard anybody get bawdy like that before. But Greg, the drummer of Hatchet, drew like the most amazing Archie comic caricature of me going, "Lay that pipe."
I gotta see that. Greg Narvis, extremely multi-talented. Yes, that's amazing.
With your permission, Kristen, I will send it to him if you
Go
like.
Go for it.
That could be your
Your
picture
really,
for the podcast.
Well,
oh my God, so funny. So
one of our
perfect.
pride and joys out here. That's what a great experience. Well, they were, and Hepcat was also at Supernova, right? So you've done,
Yes.
maybe, yeah, you've done a couple different. Aside from those two stories, what did you learn from Supernova that you applied on the shows in Colorado? Anything?
I think this is like a lesson for everybody to learn from this, but like if you give people who haven't previously gotten a voice to be heard, they will surprise you and they'll blow your mind. Just saying. Giving people spaces to shine is really important.
Yes, I love that. That's powerful and so true. Yeah. Well, and then your next performance, right, is coming up this weekend. And for those lucky and fortunate viewers or listeners who will hear this before, what do you have in store for Scottoberfest in Connecticut, right?
We have a really great lineup to choose from. And as we mentioned before, we pick our guests based on who we're playing with in the area. So we've got Sergeant Scagnetti, who has the talented Carmela on sax, who we're going to have jump up with us. There's a great band out of Connecticut called Sonaris Rising, and we're going to pull up the 2 gals from that band with us, Stephanie and Ephalie. And then there's going to be, oh my God, we're going to have Trish from some ska band join us. We're going to have, who else? I don't know. You'll have to come.
Trombone.
You'll have to come. Oh, of course, duh. The person who I probably know the best out of the whole group, Liz from The Best of the Worst on trombone, will be with us as well. So it's going to be great. We're going to have a bunch of guests. And you kind of never know what's going to happen when you throw these little extra variables in. It's fun.
So if it's 11 core and you supplement with some singers and horn players, does it equate to usually 16, 17, 18?
It's going to be, we have an extra keyboard player too, because we have Pam with us on keys as well. So it's going to be like, at one point in time, there will be like 17 people on stage probably.
Yeah, that's incredible. That we'll talk about an
I mean, it just harkens back to the reviews of old, you know, like when Motown went on tour, they had a big band, they had a full horn section, they had a full backing vocal section, they had a full rhythm section, and then they would just, you know, there was no one star. It was like they would like, you know, rotate. Ladies and gentlemen, if you put your hands together for Marvin Gaye, okay, and he'd do 3 or 4 songs. And then, ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Smokey Robinson, and he'd do 3 or 4. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Gladys Knight and the Pips, and they do, you know. And it was kind of like that. And people could jump on and off the tours, and that's kind of one of the like guiding lights for this project is the idea that like there's no like star. There are many stars, and everybody gets their chance to shine.
Yeah.
Many stars. Talk about the songs that you have recorded that people can find either right now, whether it's on streaming, or I think Jump Up, right? Jump Up has a single there. And then talk about what's in the works as it relates to like recordings.
We have my original is called Unruly Ways. That's on all the streaming platforms and on the 7-inch. Lady Hatchet and Jade Tremba have Lioness that they wrote that's on the 7-inch and the platforms. And then we have Jade Tremba had written a song featuring a bunch of us called Love the Way You Dub, and that's just on streaming right now.
And that's a recent, I think, right?
That came out in January.
Oh, okay. So it's been a while.
Okay, it's been out a while.
Okay.
Or February.
I might have just been late.
January?
Apologies.
It came out in the winter. That's
Right.
all I remember.
I think it was January.
Okay.
We do have 2 songs for comps, hopefully coming out soon. We don't know when that's happening yet. And we don't currently have any recording plans right this second. We're kind of just trying to just get together to practice for the shows that we have.
Yeah.
Since we all live so far apart, it's been difficult. So that's what we're doing right now. But I think after England, we'll probably try to, I don't know, we'll have to look into that. We're kind of just flying by the seat of our pants, you know.
There's a method to your madness. But talk about you since you reference England. So talk about going overseas.
We were invited to specialize the big 11? 111? I don't remember. I can't remember when.
I think it is 11.
I think it's the big 111. So it is a 3-day festival in the south of England, in a holiday park. Like it's a trailer park for where families vacation to go to the beach for cheap. But in November, nobody goes to the beach, so they let us reprobates rent it out and have a ska show. HCS and Rude Boy George has been on that, and it's an excellent festival. They raise money for the Teenage Cancer Trust.
Oh, amazing.
And so we were invited early this year. They invited us, so we'll be there in November, early November. And then before that, we're actually going to play the New Cross Inn in London on the 4th of November, Friday the 4th.
So 2 shows across the pond.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then do you have any confirmed shows or tours for next year, or anything that you're currently planning?
We have some interest here and there, but we're kind of just trying to get through this year first, kind of see where we end up and move forward at that point, you know.
We'd love to see you out here on the West Coast. There are some amazing singers out here, as you both know.
There's a lot of interest to get us.
We know.
I think if we weren't going to the UK, we'd be a little more proactive about making that happen right now. But I think once we do that I think that will probably, I don't mean to suppose or speak out of turn, but I think that would be the next logical step for us, is to think about how to get to the West Coast and what the logistics of that would be and what the cost would be.
2023.
Yes.
You both have been doing this a while, meaning performing in the ska reggae scene, so to speak. What keeps you going? I would imagine that Girl Revue helps keep you going. But you still both really love and enjoy what you do.
Glory.
The glory.
Fame, the money.
That's what Roddy Radiation would ever say. It's not about the money, it's about the glory.
I mean, before this project, of course I was enjoying it. I wouldn't do it if I didn't enjoy it. It's like, playing music in front of people has been a part of my life since I was, even going as far back as to being in band concerts, like a little kid, I kind of live to be in front of an audience. It's kind of my thing. So I don't think I'll ever stop until I am physically unable to, but Rude Girl Revue has kind of given me a little bit more of a focus motivation. And I'm kind of at a point where I'm like, I will not stop until all of these people are household names. When you think of big deal ska people, people are like, oh, Vic Ruggiero and Dave Hilliard or Jesse, but I want people to be like Lady Hatchet, because she fucking deserves it. You heard her ska repertoire. She's played with all these great bands. She's amazing. It speaks for her. Her work speaks for her. It's very
And a
obvious.
great storyteller.
Why is it not a household name? I'm just saying, like, household name.
Oh, Jenny.
Everyone should know.
Yes.
All of them. All of them.
You know, another, yes.
I
And
agree
that's why
wholeheartedly.
like Girl Revue, like, is one of our missions is to be, to give a platform to the voices that need to be elevated, and like to elevate women's voices, not, you know, not only just like with the band, but, you know, we make an effort to work with female designers,
Yes.
printers, button makers, you name it. Like, we try very hard to just, you know, give, you know, voice, because we've been here for a long time, man. We've all been trucking away doing this. And, you know, it's, I think we're all very patient, but it's like an uneasy patience, because you watch it, it can be so easy for some people. And
Yeah.
but the other side of that is, and this has served us well. You know, so often, if you're the only woman in a band, you have to be that much better than all the dudes who are just kind of skirting by, just to be on that level, just to be seen as like, okay, she's good enough. She's not just, you know, cute or whatever. You know, it's like, no, I'm cute and I'm good, damn it. But
Right. Yep.
so when we put together Girl Revue, at the first rehearsal, the very first rehearsal, like, we start into first song, second song, and very quickly I was like, God damn, we're locked. Like, some bands, it takes months, years, and we're just there. You know, the drums, the bass, the guitar, the keys, we were just, the groove.
Yeah, for an
was there.
all-star type project. Yeah.
The horns were just there. You know, everything worked. And I was like, it was shocking for about a minute. And then it was like, oh no, this makes sense. Because when you have that caliber of musicians that's going to work twice as hard, and you fill all the chairs with that caliber musician, you're going to roast people. So,
Yeah.
you know, and it's, I mean, we've played 4 shows. By the third show, we were already like segueing songs and like really being mindful of like pacing and being like, okay, she's got the solo, the lead, so make sure she gets that mic, or she's got the solo, so like kind of, you know, and the stage was kind of small, so we were kind of so-and-so's taking a solo, so kind of lean over, give her, like, make sure she's seen. Like, we all just did that organically. Wow. And I think it just speaks to, like I said, the caliber of musician that we have. Plus, I mean, Dania said this, she's like, for me, I'm all about the hang. Like, when all of us women get together and get to hang out, like, we don't get that often. We're usually just like,
sure, that's half the
how many times, Jenny, have been on tour and you're the one girl going to the ladies' room at the truck stop?
Yeah.
You know, and being like, oh, okay, everybody's going to have like a fire hose contest and I'm going by myself. Okay, guys, I'll see you later. You know? That's real. And it feels really good to just feel like you're in a gang with like the coolest girls. And I told Ginny, I was like, I feel like we're in the Go-Go's. Like, I feel like we're the coolest girls, and all the guys want to hang out with us, and all the women want to be our friends. And we're just sort of like, yeah, man, yeah, it's cool, whatever. Really, I just want to hang out with my band.
I love that. It's a great analogy. Yeah. Right.
Don't worry, we're not on cocaine, and the groupies aren't that young.
No, I love that. That's a great analogy. Well, and I feel bad. Junor Francis has not been able to rejoin due to some technical difficulties, but I really appreciate both of you being with us. And what else do you want fans who either know you or don't know you to know about you both and Girl Revue? Any other stories you want to tell? Anything else you want to share? Open-ended, very, very broad question.
I will just like, I would like to just particularly shout out like all the girls in this group. I have like a saying whenever I like join another group, or if I'm sitting in with someone, my saying is, if there's going to be an asshole on stage who doesn't know what they're doing, it ain't going to be me. And I'll never be that, you know, I'm always prepared. And it's great because everyone has that same work ethic. Like, everyone's like, well, I'm not going to be the asshole. and it shows
Yeah.
because we have a group of people who are really dedicated to their craft and like really make it work. And they're all like awesome, amazing, wonderful unicorns of humans. Like we all genuinely really like each other. It's like the Babysitters Club. I like it. It's amazing.
Yeah, we Junior and I interviewed Tara Hahn from 2:30 shortly after
Mhm.
Supernova, and she just talked about how amazing of an experience she had out there and how appreciative she was. So
I just told her too, like if we you are always welcome to sing with us. Always, always open invitation. So I just let her know that recently because she's amazing. She sounds like a beautiful Disney princess, and I love it.
yes, I finally met her in person at actually at Derek Morgan's show Congo. So finally in person. Lady Hatchet, what about you? Any final words?
I'll say this, that for me, there's a real special thing about a group of women doing something together like this.
Yes.
And it's not just the historic nature of it. It's also just on a social level. I think women are so often conditioned to be jealous of other women for the attention of men. You know, oh, there can be a girl in the band, but it can only be one. There can only be one. And
there can only be one.
You're so conditioned to just being like, like feeling weird about other women. And I had a guy who shall remain nameless, but plays in a band out here. Like, when we were first getting this, we hadn't played Supernova. We were first getting off the ground, and he was like, "Oh, you got a whole old girl band? Oh, I bet you guys are always like, at each other's throats, bitching and everything." And I was just sort of like, actually, it's exact opposite of that. Like, there's this beautiful thing that happens. I think once you get past that jealousy, and I think none of us are old, but we're all older and old enough to be done with that kind of bullshit and really enjoy the presence of other women who've had similar experiences. And there's this beautiful hive mind that just happens very organically. I feel like so often in rehearsals or in messages on our threads, like we're all just like vibing and we're all on the, and I think that's part of not only what makes the music so great, but makes the experience so great, is that you really it's more than a gang. It's like Rockery Revue is its own breathing, or when we get together and we Voltron our powers together, it's almost like there's this like breathing organism that is
you feed off each other. You really want to prop each other up.
Yeah.
It's really beautiful and special, and I feel so grateful. I feel so grateful to work with these women because they're all amazing, fucking beasts of players, and they're really just amazing people. And I think when you are kind of a weird girl coming up, maybe I'm just speaking for myself here, but when you're a weird girl and you don't know who you fit in with, when you find your tribe, as we have with Girl Revue, it's a really special, beautiful, precious thing. And I think we all are at a point where we are grateful for it and are so valuable, and we recognize its value, and we just want to, hold it, gently and watch it just fucking grow. And
absolutely. Yeah. Well, I've shown some videos, your live performances, to my two daughters who
yay,
love watching you. And it does seem to be an exciting time. I mean, obviously this incredible project and very important project that you're working on with Girl Revue, and obviously, seeing so much of like what the Interrupters are out there doing, on some huge stadium shows, right? Waving the ska banner, so to speak, right? And in front of audiences who may not know it as much, right? So, and a lot of examples, Catbite, right? Making some good waves, and but there's, as you two know best, I mean, there's a lot of women on the scene, right? And so the platform that you two and the rest of Girl Revue are helping provide is just so important and special, and thank you for doing that, because I think it is something that that people are really enjoying, and are going to continue to get out there and see and support you by listening to the music. Get out there and support by buying some tickets when we can see you live. And do want to wish you the best in Connecticut, and then in November as you go across the pond.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you both. And again, Junor Francis sends his regards. We'll have to see you in
technology duppies.
I know. Technology got us, yes. But
them duppies, they they never let you have any fun.
It was the fly. It was the fly, Lady Hatchet.
It's probably my fault.
No, but really appreciate you both taking the time talking with me here on the History of LA Ska one-on-one sessions. Thank you to Junor Francis for trying to get on. And on that note, where can people find Girl Revue, and then maybe your other projects?
Rude Girl Revue is on Instagram at Rude Girl Revue. We're on Facebook, Rude Girl Revue. We have a TikTok, although I don't know how much it's updated. I don't handle the TikTok, but it's there. rudegirlrevue@gmail.com for booking inquiries and such. And yeah, on all the streaming platforms.
And we got a website too,
www.rudegirlrevue.com. You want to actually check the website out, because we have like a little kind of like a newsletter blog kind of thing where we have like little write-ups and stuff. There's some stuff on there that's not elsewhere. It's pretty cool.
Excellent. And then Hub City Stompers and Scotch Bonnets, you're on all social platforms as well, I'd imagine.
Yeah. We are not on the TikTok though. I think everyone in HCS is too old to do TikTok.
Yeah, I'm morally opposed to TikTok. I think it's the death of intellectualism and independent creative thought. So I'm like, yeah.
I have an account, but I'm not posted on it, and I'm with you there.
Same.
There's too many out there.
Yeah. I'm also like, oh, now you thought that like people didn't have the attention span for a 3.5 minute song.
I know.
Try 20 seconds. That's all you got now.
I know. Well, again, thank you so much, both Kristen and Ginny. And again, congratulations for what you're doing. I wish you nothing but success and fun times and safe travels out there. And I also want to thank everyone for listening and watching. Please subscribe to this podcast series and to our YouTube channel. Follow us at History of LA Ska on Instagram, and join our Facebook group. You can also follow at Junor Francis. This series is produced by myself for Rockery Radio. And again, thanks everyone for the ongoing support. Get out and support the music scene. And again, Ginny and Kristen, have a wonderful night. Thank you both so much, and continued success. Take care.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You bet. My pleasure.